In today's show, we discuss Trump's tariffs. Is he breaking America in order to save it?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Taya Boya. Taya, hello, my friend. Once again, I hope you keep it safe and well. And then please, please, please say hello to our audience.
Actually, I'm going to stop saying hello to the audience if you tell me to. This is the last time, but I will say this time, but no, you don't need to prompt me anymore. Hello, audience. Welcome. Ignore Tony and his really horrible attack on me. Unwarranted attack, I should say.
What, to say hello to our audience? Come
Yes.
on, that's not really an attack, is it?
Well, I feel wounded, so it must be. Anyway, let me introduce this week's fact.
Okay.
It's a strange one, but maybe not for the reason I think it is. A man once sued himself for $5 million. In 1995, Robert Lee Brock, an inmate in a prison in Virginia in the USA, filed a $5 million lawsuit against himself for violating his own civil rights by getting drunk and committing crimes. He argued that the state should pay the damages because he was incarcerated and unable to work. The judge dismissed the case as ludicrous. But it was
I do like that.
It's very clever. It would have. I can't afford it, so you pay because I'm a ward of the state. And then when I get out in 23 years, I'll see how I can pay you guys back. But no, he didn't. It didn't work.
That's actually very ingenious. If it had worked, everyone would be at it. That was very clever. I'll actually give you that one. That was a good one. Right. Okay. Let's move on with today's show. Now, I want to, before I start with the topic, I want to just remind our wonderful audience out there, whether you're consuming our show on audio or video, please continue to like, comment, or subscribe to our show. Hopefully subscribe so you get reminders of it appearing in your inbox or whatever platform you happen to be listening or watching on. So please continue to do that. And also please continue to comment, because we do love hearing your feedback and we do get back to you eventually. Well, eventually. I will say eventually. How long that'll be, because Tayo is no longer on Facebook. Boo. And so so we've had to dispense with our Facebook group, which is such a shame because we're building quite a following on there. I still might twist his arm to get him to come back, but we'll see about that one. But yeah, whatever platform you're on, please continue to comment, like, and subscribe. We do appreciate it. Thank you. Right, today's show, and this is very topical. Donald Trump, yes, indeed. His tariffs. I mean, where have you been if you don't know this topic? But Trump's tariffs. Is he breaking America to actually save it? Tyre.
Here's the thing. I think this topic came about because I've had to tell you and my nephew, who's probably listening at some point, that just because you don't like someone doesn't make them idiots. And I don't think Trump is an idiot. Now, what he's doing may be idiotic, so that doesn't necessarily make him. It doesn't necessarily make him an idiot. It just makes him hard to defend. To be honest, with you,
Indeed,
hard to defend. You see, here's the thing. Since I don't believe he's an idiot, I mean, think about this for a second. I know I've mentioned it to you, but the audience hasn't heard this. Okay, you don't become a billionaire, marry supermodels, and win the presidency twice by accident. It's not the sort of thing idiots do. So, if he's not an idiot, what is he up to? That's the thing. once you take away the idiot card, then what's left is he's doing something on purpose. Now, what he's doing on purpose might be counterintuitive, might even be foolish, might be delusional, all these things. But it wouldn't be idiotic. And so I think in order to understand, I can't class him as the enemy. He's not my personal enemy, in order to understand Trump, and let's face it, many people don't like him. Many people do, of course, but many don't like him. In order to understand him, it's best not to just dismiss him and to underestimate him and to think he's an idiot, he's a clown. It's better to see if there is something that could be behind his maneuvers. I like to think of a chess piece called The Knight, and there's this poem I've been looking for where is my very dim memory from my early youth. The knight is a perfect gentleman. His moves are something like his moves are mysterious, but his motives are unsure. You never know what the knight. The knight is a very difficult, cheap piece to control or to use in chess. And Donald Trump reminds me of a knight gadding about the chessboard, being highly disruptive and destructive. This is my position, and I'm going to try to show today during this show, no doubt in the face and in the teeth of your strong opposition, that there might be something that he might be trying to do something. He might be trying to break America, break it down, break it apart.
In order to save it.
In order to save it, in order to put it back together again in this idyllic world in his mind
didn't Pol Pot try that
in
Cambodia?
Yeah. The most dangerous people are the people who think that they're going to help, by force, put things back into this usually unrealistic, idyllic Shangri-La state.
See, what is this idyllic viewpoint that he seems to have in his mind? I mean, I will address the idiot claim because let's be honest, you can judge somebody by their personality quite well and way they behave, the way they act, and so forth, and the way they respond and how they respect people. And you're right, I don't think he's an idiot because, as you rightly said, he wouldn't have been as successful as he was, in quotes, although his argument, how he started, he borrowed a small amount of $1 million from his father, which, that
most of
that
us
in
can't.
itself. Indeed. So I don't think he's an idiot, but his actions are idiotic. And they aren't, if you look at them rationally, you think, what is he doing? Now, the end goal that he's wanting to get to may be noble, may be altruistic, may be beneficial, but there's ways and means of bringing those about. And so his actions do not convey somebody who's thought this through. It sounds erratic. It sounds bullish. Hubris is clearly part of his demeanor. And so he believes that the way he's implementing the tariffs, everyone has to kowtow to his viewpoint, and that's it, bottom line. Where he's misjudging a lot of countries. They've got leadership, they've got their own population to think about. It's not all about America. Yes, they're mighty, yes, they're powerful, but there are hundreds of other countries in this world. It doesn't all boil down to the US and what the US does, despite their belief, or despite his belief, to the contrary. So I don't think he's an idiot, but his actions do not show me of someone who is thinking through his action plan to bring everybody forward, because that's what you need to do at the national level.
Okay, well, you've got an interesting point of view. You say someone isn't an idiot, but everything he does is idiotic. That's a mind meld that I can't quite handle myself.
Well, no, it's because you judge somebody based on their actions, and I mean, I don't believe that anybody's an idiot. but their actions can lead you to believe that they're idiotic. So the term an idiot is quite disparaging because it's almost like everything you do is idiotic. That's clearly not true. We are made up of the actions that we take, and each of our actions are all different. They're all independent. They all take thought. So the majority of our actions then build up the person to who we are. And then other people can make an opinion based on those actions as to what we are as an individual. And in his case, he's made up a lot of actions, and they're idiotic actions. So you could then surmise and say, oh, I think he's an idiot. But in truth, I don't think he is. I think a lot of his actions are idiotic, but I don't think he's an idiot. I think his vision of where the US needs to be is, I don't know, how clear is it? What does he want? What does he want to do?
Okay. Well, again, your point of view, your outlook here is still something that I can't quite understand. I'm not calling it right or wrong. I'm just saying I don't understand it. It's like you're seeing somebody jump into traffic every single day, and you're calling him a genius. It's like,
No,
well, if
I
you're
didn't
jumping into
say
traffic,
that. I never
well,
called
you
him
didn't
a
say it.
genius.
Well, you're saying that he's not idiotic. So I don't know. Anyway, you see, the thing is this: you've asked a great question. What is he trying to do? See, during what you were saying, you said that he thinks everybody will come and kowtow to him and cut a deal. But actually, here's a fun fact for you, and you can start thinking about it. His friend, in air quotes, if people can't see me, I'm doing air quotes, his friend, Benjamin Netanyahu,
Yes.
because the Israelis got hit with, I believe it was 17%, am I correct?
I can't remember
17%,
the exact, but it was higher
17%.
than they didn't expect anything, but they got hit as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, 17%. We're herring off to Washington. I don't know why he did that, because if Trump wouldn't have done it by accident, it's not as if Trump would have seen Israel 70% and go, oh, no, okay, just accidentally forgotten about it. So why would you go to Washington? They did it on purpose. Anyway, he went herring off to Washington to see what talk to his friend Donald Trump, and Trump entertained him. He was very civilized and urbane and everything, and no, nothing. He didn't absolutely not give an inch. So that's to Israel of all countries, right?
This is what I
America's
mean. What's his end game here?
his end game has nothing to do with the tariffs in themselves. Those countries are not actually the targets, in my opinion. And I'm going to try to walk you and the audience through this. In my opinion, the target is the Federal Reserve. He wants to bring down interest rates, and the Federal Reserve is saying no. And Trump thinks if he brings the house down, which he's perfectly happy to do, because the House, he doesn't like the House anyway. At one point, he liked the House. In his first term, he was very, oh, look at what I've done with the stock market. Oh, look, it's up 58%. Oh, look this. Oh, look that. It was very pro that. And then they sided with the Democrats against him. And let's face it, Trump is not a forgiving man. He
No.
doesn't have a
No,
forgiving bone
no,
in his
no.
body. And he never forgets anyone who slides or crosses him.
Disloyal. He just does not do it.
He
No.
doesn't like that at all. So he's seen them as being disloyal, even though some of them funded his campaign. I mean, Miriam Alderson, $100 million, and still he still told Israel go away 17%. But that's not the issue. It's not the issue. The interest rates are not the issue. All these interest rates are to cause inflation within America, to force with the counter. This is the thing where I say he's not an idiot. Counterintuitively, to force the Feds to drop rates, because when the economy is grinding to a halt, interest rates are not that important.
That's right. You drop them to try and stimulate people.
You need to
buying.
stimulate, yeah. And then guess what happens? Then companies overseas, they look at the rates and then they look at how much they can. Two things happen actually. Number one, resurfacing, is this service? what you do, renegotiating, that's it. You're renegotiating America's debt. Guess what? You pay a hell of a lot less in interest. The rates are down, the interest rates are down. So he's going to end up paying far less in interest rates on the massive debts they've got, making that a little bit more sustainable. And then hopefully with interest rates down in the dregs or gutter or whatever it is, then he's going to attract foreign investment. The Qataris have spoken about investing $1 trillion in America over the next I don't know 10 years, between now
10
and
years, I think.
10 years. Saudis, same thing. People piling up to go, oh, okay, we're going to come and put money into the American economy. Now, whether they do or not, I don't know. Is it Intel or who is it that's going back 100 billion investment? Not Samsung,
MC.
TMC,
Is it
the
TMC?
Taiwanese, TMSC, isn't it?
Taiwanese.
Is it TSMC?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the semiconductors
Yeah.
in Taiwan. They're going to open 100 billion factory again in Arizona or somewhere. So it's not actually, if you were actually sitting down and saying to people, let's work out tariffs and things like that, then you would say it's about tariffs, but it's not about tariffs. And you can tell it's not about tariffs if you happen to know who his favorite former president of America is. Do you happen to know?
Wasn't it somebody at the turn of the 19th
Correct.
century?
Remember his name?
No.
William McKinley.
Okay.
William McKinley. Now, where's William McKinley? Where is he? I had him here just a second ago. William McKinley was the president at the turn of the century. And if I've lost it, I'll be so annoyed because I had everything set up for you. Aha, here we go. It was the 25th president, and he served between 1892 and 1896. He served for 4 years when he died because he was shot in the tummy, in the stomach. He was assassinated, basically. And good old
How many presidents have been
Roosevelt.
assassinated? That's not a good sign.
Well, if you say the Second Amendment, what amendment lets them run around with weapons? You can't really be surprised that, the pop off. Anyway, and let me just quickly.
Yeah.
When he was shot in the stomach, the person who shot him was set upon by the crowd. So he's clutching his stomach, he's in great agony and everything, and then he's actually fighting for the person's life. Don't lynch him, leave him, just arrest. Yeah, exactly. Very brave, very courageous. And then his first thing was like, his wife was called Ida, IDA, and then he was thinking about, oh look, just don't shock Ida. Try to do your best, So he was thinking about other people. He's got his thing. He thinks he's dying. Well, he did die in the end. And he was thinking about other people. So I think, imagine you're Trump and this is your favorite president, and then you get shot in the air. And as they're taking you off the stage, you just remember your president, your favorite president. Remember what Trump did? Pushed his arm up in the air and was shouting, fight, fight, fight. No, it was really resolute and everything. Do you remember that?
But he wasn't care. I do, but he wasn't caring about, like you said, this other president on.
No, but he was being brave. I mean, he stood up. I mean, someone is popping off bullets at you, and you tell people to get off you, and you still expose. He didn't know whether the guy was still alive or dead at the time. He could easily have been shot, and he stood up strong and tall and said, fight, 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 fight back. That's brave, whether you like him or not. That was really brave because a lot of other people be cowering and hiding behind the Secret Service people.
Is that bravery or is that stupidity? Again, that's an act that sounds on the surface brave, but is bravery, when it's warranted, an act of stupidity? Because you have to sum up brave and stupid. If you're doing it without knowledge, then you're the president. You can't even, you're supposed to be, or president elect. You have to be, at the time, you have to think about being in charge of the population. So is it bravery when you've got Secret Service there, or was that defiance in some way? And that's not bravery, that's stupidity.
So I think I think knowing what bullets do and being aware that someone is shooting at you and still having the testicles to stand up and shout, fight, fight, fight. I'll call that bravery because the natural instinct at a time like that, your instincts would be, in my opinion, I could be wrong, would be to cower, to take, to take what you call it, to take cover.
Okay.
Because I know, were I the president, I'd be pushing the woman in front of me. Come on, it's your turn. I, I wouldn't be out there going, hey, take a pot
Yeah,
shot.
but so
There's also this.
the point is, what we proving here? That he's brave. So what?
Yes, yes, I'm
That
proving. No,
that
I'm not. I can't prove anything. I'm just suggesting that because he's really an admirer of McKinley and would have known very a lot about this McKinley's moments,
yeah.
with the bullet in his stomach and everything, that he would then, because of his admiration for McKinley, it would have been something that he would have channeled. Do you see what I'm trying to? That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. That if he had liked someone else, he probably would have just gone into the car and just pushed off. Like,
But the point is, so what? I'm not trying to. I'm still struggling
I'm trying
to
to say
see
that
the
he's very that
connection.
he would likes he would love to be a second McKinley. And McKinley was very big on tariffs. And when McKinley was big on tariffs, America was quite strong. McKinley was one of those presidents who who believed in this other thing that the former president did, the American sphere of influence. You know
Yeah.
that there were power centers, and one of the power centers would be the American continent, North and South. And in those days, believe it or not, in those days, income tax wasn't really a thing. Tax wasn't really a thing. It all
That's
came
right.
down to,
Yeah.
to tariffs.
Yep.
So as far as you see, if Trump wants to say, I know the people are going to hate me now. Just imagine how they're going to feel about me in 2 years' time when I tell them, hey, no more federal income tax, which is already talking about.
He
No more income.
mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no more income tax. People are going to love him. It's like, well, how are we going to manage that? The tariffs.
But what you discover, though, with tariffs, and this is one of the reasons why tax was brought in, was in just tariffs alone are actually disproportionate because you find that the people at the poorest end of society end up footing the bill for everybody else because they're the ones needing a lot of the things that are sold that have come through the borders. So tax was introduced as a fairer system where everybody shares the burden of running the country. What has happened is that the governments, rather than using tax for a few key services, are taxing more than ever. So yeah, they've run amok with taxes, and a lot of countries are now using taxes to squeeze their domestic audiences. But tariffs is not the answer, in my opinion. I mean, the way he's done it, right? He's got track record, right? Because he's actually done this already in his first term, where he charged additional tariffs to China because he wanted to readdress the balance between the US and China and thought there was an issue there. And clearly, to a degree, there is across the planet. There are some protectionisms going on. And so he wanted to do this with China. And so he introduced tariffs quite severely back then, because also China back then were were not very strict with intellectual property rights, for instance. And so he put tariffs on to bring China to the negotiating table effectively so that they could then come to a deal after a little while. But what he's done this time around, rather than give the possibility, because what happened then, let's be honest, he put these trade barriers in, but then manufacturing was moved offshore to different countries that didn't have the trade tariffs. But now he's covered every country on the planet, so there's nowhere for people to go. And the problem with this time is that big corporations, which have historically gone to China because that's where the labor costs were cheaper, they're paying the price for his tariffs. So domestic companies are suffering. They're paying that they can't bring their goods into the US because they're made on overseas, areas,
Mm-hmm.
and they're losing huge profits. And if they're losing huge profits, the tax that they would get ordinarily, the government in America would get the tax from these companies. They're not going to. The bottom line is going to be hit. So he thinks that the tariffs will then bring in taxes. But the tariffs are paid by a domestic audience, not paid by the foreign country,
Mm-hmm.
because it just makes a foreign country's goods more expensive. So the domestic market won't buy them. But if they need them, they are paying the higher amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the foreign country that's affected. They're affected by losing trade.
Yeah, I think he knows that, and I think he said that the money will go straight into the treasury, which it does. So the importer pays pays the tariffs. The importer,
Which is domestic companies in the States,
yeah, and then passes it on
to the consumer. So the
passes on
consumer's got
the thing
higher
to the,
taxes
yes,
and higher
taxes,
prices,
tariffs,
higher prices.
prices.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
so if let's say Apple wants to sell more iPhones. Don't know why anybody buys them, but that's just me. Yeah, if they want to sell more iPhones, then they've got to reshore, and they've got to build within America, so they can sell to the rest of the world from their Chinese factories. But to sell within America, you must be in America. And what that will do, as I think I told you privately offline, in my opinion, what that would do is it would build a separate economy, not a global economy. It would build America its own economy that's separate. Now, in my opinion, and I think I've mentioned this before, in my opinion, as the decades pass, that economy will be worse and worse productive, competitive.
Absolutely.
It'll be, I call it the new Soviet Union.
Yes.
But in the meantime, in the next 10, 15 years, it's entirely possible that this man will look like a glorious, foresighted, wonderful leader who saw all this. I think the long-term effects will become apparent in due course, but in the meantime, I think he could get away with it. So it's his idea to me is that he wants to cause a rift between America and other nations. So the tariffs thing is doing a lot. It's a tool, multifaceted tool, the way I believe he wants to use it. One thing would be to find out who's on America's side and who isn't. So China has put tariffs on America. They're definitely the enemy. Definitely. Anyone who wants to sit down and negotiate with him is not yet on the enemy list. So they could be brought in onto America's side, because if they can be brought onto America's side, the target has always been, don't forget, he said this openly. I'm not revealing any secrets. The target is China, correct? Do you agree?
Well, possibly, yes.
Yes, the target is China. So what is it going? How do you do that? So what you do is you find out who's with you and who isn't, and if enough people are with you, you then go on to secondary tariffs. You say, well, it's okay. You can come in with your 0% or whatever it is, or your 5%. You still sell to us and everything, but if you deal with China, then you're going to have massive tariffs against you. So he's actually looking, who are the weaklings? He's trying, like a good bully does. Not good. A good bully is an oxymoron. Yes. Like an effective bully does, like hyenas do. They panic the herd, and then they look for the weaklings, and then take out the weaklings. So what he's doing now, in my opinion, is that he and his administration, they're working out who the weaklings are. And if they can suss out enough, if they can identify enough weaklings, Then they'll introduce secondary sanctions, which are the main problem. I think even Russia could suffer from secondary sanctions, and Russia is far less vulnerable than China is because Russia's got all its own blooming resources and everything. So if he does that, then and if he's successful in that, then China's got a bit of a problem. Who are you going to be selling to? Because a lot of people wouldn't want to touch with a barge pole.
But this now, let me just interrupt it just to add to that. I get what you're saying, but I think he's underestimated that China can be a suitable alternative to the US.
Mm.
He should have done this maybe 10, 20 years ago when the US was really the only game in town.
Mm.
So their economy was valuable to everybody. You want to sell to the US if you can break into that market. You're made, you're happy. You would kowtow to his demands. However, China isn't that far behind the US in terms of as a global economy. In fact, they have an even larger population than the US. They
Mm-hmm.
dwarf the population of the US. And more of they have a
Four
middle
times as many.
class. Yeah, and they have a middle class now, which is actually more than the
Yeah,
entire
didn't I hear the 800
population.
million or something?
They're no, I don't think it's as high as that. They've got, I think, about 600 million
Oh, that's
middle
double.
class,
That's
what the
double the
US
American
population.
population.
Exactly. So they have 600 million people in China who are, in quotes, middle class now. Yes, granted, they've still got 850 million who are quite poor, but
Mm.
600 million people deemed as middle classes. That is more than the entire American population twice. And let's be honest, the entire American population of 330 million are not all middle class. So, that number's slightly less than that. So China has a huge potential market. Now,
Mhm.
so the fact that they had now the US are trying to use heavy tactics against China, they don't realize that China will not back down. They won't. They've got a
Mm.
big enough economy to withstand all America's bluster. And America are simply pushing countries that would never have looked at China to begin with and now turning their heads and going, actually, if we got to pay all this to the US, why don't we go and pivot to China? They're not charging us anything. In fact, they're openly inviting us in to sell to their population, and we could have a quid pro quo arrangement that's not going to cost us anything. So they will naturally look at China. And America can say, well, in that case, you're no longer going to be dealing with us. We're going to put 100% tariff on you. The countries will go, well, actually, put all the tariffs you like. We're dealing with China. And so America are damaging themselves because the other crazy thing, I mean, you eloquently placed it where you said American companies would need to come back to the US. That's all well and good if you lower the standard of wages in the US market. You can't because let's say you mentioned the iPhone.
Mhm.
At the moment, the iPhone, the entry level one, I think is about $700 to buy because it's
Mm.
still manufactured in China at a good rate. So they can sell it to the American people for $700. Now, if they genuinely wanted to onshore the production in America, so they manufacture iPhones in the US as per Trump's recommendation. First off, they'd have to pay their manufacturing costs way higher than what they do in China. So you would have to end up buying a entry level iPhone for $2,700. And
Well,
that's assuming you can even get all the raw materials to make the darn thing.
okay, so that's a separate issue and it's very good. And we have to touch on that if we remember to. That separate issue about supply chains, that's the biggie. However, think about this.
He just made a
It'll be
deal with Ukraine.
hyperinflation. Yeah, Ukraine. Ukraine is not going to be Ukraine much longer. I don't think Ukraine will be Ukraine in 2026. think the Russians would be involved by then. Anyway,
Mm.
anyway, here's the thing: it, hyperinflation from outside the country would mean that Americans wouldn't know that they're broke until they traveled outside their country,
Oh,
right?
be a disaster.
Well, they wouldn't know because inside the country they could afford an iPhone because yes, it does cost $4,000, but they're earning that kind of money to be able to afford $4,000. So they won't know. It's when they take a trip across the border and they go, "What do you mean a Coke is $50,000? What the hell are you talking about?" So here's your toilet paper money, man. Nobody. But back in America, I can buy. Yeah, well, this is in America, baby. It's the way I found out the hard way that the pound sterling isn't what it was when I was a young boy. When I went to Denmark, and a half a bottle of Coke was £5. And I was like, sorry, no, I said Coke. And the guy was like, yeah, I know. I know. So many visitors, when they come, yes, they all say, no, Coke. Like, the hell? Yeah, they're talking. So the Norwegian kroner, where did I say I went? It was Norway. The Norwegian kroner
Oh,
is something else, man. That's a real currency. Ours is anyway. Now compared to ours now, you can imagine if Trump gets his way. But inside the country, everything will be hunky dory. Everything it'll be fine. And what did I want to say about you? You mentioned something now. And now.
supply chain.
So no, well, yeah, okay,
Okay,
but
to
that's
get to
that's
that. Okay.
yeah, we'll get to that. Here's the thing. I want to ask you this question now. Would you rather sell to, I don't know, doesn't matter, person A, okay? Random
Yeah.
person. Would you rather sell all your goods and services? I know you don't produce goods, but let's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
would you rather sell to person A and make a lot of money or buy from person B and spend a lot of money? If push came to shove, what would you rather do?
Interesting question. B, I would suggest.
You'd buy. Where are you
From
getting the money
person
from to
B.
buy?
Oh, I see. Yes. If you haven't got the money, okay. You'd probably have to deal with, yeah, person A. You'd have to.
So, Vietnam, case in point. Let's take Vietnam. I've got
Yeah.
the facts here. I don't know how to send it to you. Just
Okay. Just
okay,
read
but
them
anyway,
out. It's
I'll
fine.
read that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Vietnam United States trade
Yep.
2024,
Yep.
Vietnam exported goods
Yep.
at approximately 136 billion to the United States in
Okay.
2024. This
Yep.
is the from the United States Trade Representative figures.
Yep.
Okay. In the same period, the imported goods are
Yep.
worth 13 billion.
Okay.
So a trade surplus
Tiny.
of 123,
100 and, well, no, it's
123 billion.
123 billion. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 123 billion in favor of Vietnam. In that
Okay.
same year, 2024,
Yep.
the exports to China
Yeah.
were at 61 billion, but
This is
imports,
Vietnam. Yeah. So to
this is Vietnam.
China. Yeah. Yeah.
Exports to China from Vietnam was 61 billion,
Yeah.
but they imported 144 billion, meaning they got a trade deficit of 82 billion. So when Trump says you're not going to sell to us, it's quite a threat.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That you're saying that, oh, people are getting fed up and that China can. No, China is actually selling to everyone and everyone is paying into Chinese coffers.
I
But in
see.
America, it's inverted. It's the other way around.
Right.
That's
So
why
yeah.
that's why it means something. That's why these secondary sanctions I'm telling you about would be really, really deleterious for China if it works.
So in other words, they've got a bigger export than they have import from all the countries, whereas America has a bigger import
Yeah, it's the
than
world's
export.
debtor. It buys from everybody and it's debtor, but it's doing so in a way that is wrecking its economy. But in the meantime, the party isn't over yet. A lot of these weak leaders can't see that the party is over. And as politicians usually do, it's kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, and they're going to do that until there is a blooming depression in America that spreads out and hammers everyone.
Yeah, you see, the problem being as well is a lot of the big corporates
Hmm.
are buying and buying their labor, and it's the labor from abroad because it's cheaper. American labor is too expensive.
Mm.
Hence why he's trying this in a way to try and bring the labor back, but it's still expensive. If you bring it back, I mean, like I said, I gave the iPhone example. Who, I mean, seriously, who will pay that amount? They wouldn't. So I iPhone sales will plummet, and so their profit margin will be less, and they will be paying the government of America less in taxes because obviously they're based in the US. They're trading. They want to trade in the US, so now they're going to have to think twice and go, hold on, do we try and set up a base in America, or do we split the company and create a base offshore and maintain the current channels around the world? So we have two separate companies effectively. So you've got Apple US and you've got Apple worldwide because they can't then cross the border because they'll be exposed to tariffs. So do you see what I mean?
No, I do understand what you're
it
saying.
causes a massive, massive headache.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when too many big corporates are losing money, remember, the whole American political system is based on corporate sponsorship for ministers of Congress and congressmen in the Congress in the houses, yeah. So if you've got too many companies being damaged and losing money because of Trump's policies, Congress will get pressure directly from companies that sponsor the politicians
Mm.
to put pressure on Trump to reverse tactics because the pain is too great. I understand this vision. We still don't know whether it will work or not. That's the problem. If the vision was clear and it shows that it can work, if he says give me 2 years and you'll see the difference, people may adapt and adjust. But there's no light at the end of the tunnel here. Even the implementation of it was quite sporadic. Let's be honest. He didn't even do it based on a certain formula. He did it on the trade deficit of every country. I mean, I saw a thing the other day, Laos.
Oh, I
Laos,
can tell you, I can tell you
stupid
about
amount of
that.
tariffs
I
because
can
they
tell
happen
you.
to have some. Go on.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, 'cause I don't want to interrupt. I can tell you why it's every country because some people may have heard that he placed tariffs on islands that have only penguins on them, and
Yeah,
he even
uninhabited.
placed tariff on an island that only has American military personnel on it. So that was, and obviously, again, this thing about saying that someone is an idiot, it turns out that he had a reason for doing that. Apparently, one of the loopholes that has been used in the past is that countries purport that their goods come from these island chains and things like that. So you're in Vietnam, China, wherever, you say, well, it's not really from this place. It's really from that other place,
Yeah,
Marshall, and so they get around the tariffs that way. And that's
yeah.
why it's like everybody, no, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. We don't care if you're coming from Israel, if you're coming from the Marshall Islands, we don't care. Gotta pay the
There is
tariffs.
still lower amount. I mean, for instance, the Falkland Islands,
Hmm.
they've got a 47% tariff, whereas the UK is 10% tariff.
Yeah.
So if the Falklands, the only reason it was put that way is because they sold more fish to the US than the US exported to them because they've only got a few people on the island. So they've been slapped with a 47% tariff. So it's like, what? So now if they want to sell fish to the US, they'll have to go via the UK. And that's not possible. So
No,
you've
no.
damaged them. You see, the thing is that this hardball that he's having with China, and China will not back down. I'm sorry, they just won't. He either clearly doesn't understand the
No, they
Chinese
can't.
hierarchy.
They can't because of the face thing. They would
Yeah,
lose
yeah,
face.
you can't lose face. You just can't do it. So they will not back down. Now the problem is Trump will have internal pressure, and this is where I think this will become unstuck because He's already wiped $5 trillion from the stock market. And even the Republican Party is scrambling now because think about this: pension funds of people in the US and globally are based on stock market movements. So if you're wiping out pension funds for people, you're now hurting people directly. And even his MAGA supporters in the States, a fair few of them will have pension funds. And if they've seen that their pension funds have been wiped because this tactic is too hard and too fast, this is the biggest issue. It's too aggressive too soon. It's affected everyone too quickly. Now, had he brought this in gradually, markets can adjust, they can absorb it, they can maybe deal with it. The same elsewhere. Say, look, we're going to put tariffs on. This is what we're planning to do. We're going to put them on in 6 months' time. But in the meantime, if you want to negotiate, we may not do it. But if you don't, then we're going to. So you're giving people time to reflect and adjust and make modifications. He introduced them too quickly, too aggressively, and he's absolutely catapulted the whole stock market system and basically destroyed it in the biggest drop in history. That can't be a pain point that people will just ignore and absorb. They just can't.
You say that, but you see, here's the thing. We've seen something like this before. It's called the yikes. It's called, I put all these things in very special places so I can use them when I need them. And then I look for them. This stout no. I mentioned that already.
McKinley president. You've done that.
No, stout. Sorry about this, audience. This stout something or the other. Anyway, I'll come up with it. It was a congressional bill sponsored by two people. I think it's STOUT and somebody else. And this was in 1930 or thereabouts, or just before. Anyway, that brought the last time tariffs were this high, and people say it was because of that the
depression,
yes,
yeah,
that the depression happened. So you might think, that Trump would be Smoot, SMOOT.
mm-hmm.
That's one chap's name. Then hyphen, then Hawley, HAWLEY. The Smoot Hawley. That just sounds like a kind of motorbike or something. The Smoot Hawley, thing, which was the tariffs. You might think to yourself, that would be terrible. Well, listen, no, look at it from Trump's point of view, okay? So the economic migrants stopped coming into America because America isn't what it used to be. Okay? The Fed slashes interest rates, which eases Americans' debt load. There's a weakened dollar, which means that American manufacturing becomes competitive again.
Okay.
There's a possibility. It is the not lunatic. It is the very, very aggressive, very rambunctious, very dangerous gamble of an inveterate gambler who, as I understand it, he's built things and sometimes he makes money, but quite a lot of times he loses money.
Yes.
But he builds them anyway. And every so often he makes a killing. And so he's got that gambler's instinct. And from where I'm sitting,
doing it with the economy and people's lives.
But he believes he's going to win. He doesn't. That's the funny thing about that. Wow. No no gambler believes they're going to lose. The whole reason they gamble is they think they're going to win. He's pretty sure he's going to win.
It's not his money either.
Oh, well, he's the president, so actually kind of, is. And have you heard about this? Act? The Act 19, what is it? The Insurrection Act of 1957 was. I thought it was earlier than that. I'm very surprised with that. I thought it was really early in America's. Hey, there we go. The Insurrection Act of 1807, which analysts are thinking, well, analysts, people, people that I listen to anyway, some of them are going, hmm, there's there are whispers, in the corridors of power. None of us are there, so I don't know how we're supposed to know. But there are
Okay.
whispers in the in the corridors of power that the mutterings about the Insurrection Act started talking about the Insurrection Act because of these judges who are stopping the deportation.
Yeah, but they're
And
following the rule of law, which
yeah,
is
well,
written in the.
Trump thinks that they are actually becoming a deep state, that
Oh,
he's supposed to be running things. This is what he wants to do. This is what he said he's going to do, and then you're going and telling him he can't do it. And that if because a few congressmen, I mean, some Republicans in Congress, in the full House of Reps and Senate, they're looking at what's going on now, and they're getting cold feet. And the idea is that if they start showing that they really do have cold feet and they're not going to back him, he's trying to get the. Now, I don't know this, okay? So I don't want MI6 or CIA, anybody coming and picking me up. This is what I've heard, all right? So, and I'm sitting here in Northampton. What I understand is that Access and people like that, with the proposals for stiffening the back of the army, no more DEI and things like that, that they've got more and more army officers coming over to their side. When they have enough of that, they can invoke the Insurrection Act, which is basically a state of emergency, which Trump can basically do what he wants. So if you think you're going to be able to stop him by saying Congress or the law courts, what kind of courts are there, or the Supreme Court, or anything, that isn't going to happen.
well, I'm not sure about that because they have
Well,
these built. Hang on. Let me just clarify.
hmm.
They have built-in protections in their rule book. The point is, Trump is invoking emergency powers that he's putting all these tariffs on. Congress actually set the tariffs, not the
Yes,
president.
yeah,
But
sure.
the point is, he's doing it under this emergency rule category. Now,
Hmm.
Congress can actually override him in the
If
statute.
if if it's a coup d'état, it's an American coup d'état. Congress can override him if the army is going to listen. If the army says, "Open your mouth and we'll shoot you," it's going to be like Yeltsin standing on a tank outside the Duma.
Yeah, but that would then imply that the army are with Trump as opposed to with
Well,
Congress.
that's what I'm saying. That's what
Yeah, I
I'm saying.
know,
That
but
is what they're doing now. That is supposedly what is going on now. That they're making sure.
I'm not convinced with
Well,
that one.
we can't be convinced now. We're sitting in
No.
Northampton. What the hell do we know? But I'm saying I'm saying that if you keep writing the man off, if I had told you what he was going to do on his Liberation Day, if I had told you that a year ago, you'd have given me all the arguments why he couldn't and
He
why he
couldn't, and he
wouldn't,
has, yeah.
and he has. So you
What
got to
about
at some
this
point.
third term? We haven't even discussed that.
Well, so you've got to at some point stop saying he can't do it.
Yeah, he
You
can
can't
do it.
you
But then he's
can't
a
defend.
dictator. He's a dictator.
The best way to stop someone from doing it is to first of all understand that he could do it. Then you stand a
Indeed.
chance of stopping him. But if you're like he can't do it, then you wake up one day, he's done it. It's too blooming late.
Indeed. You see, he's thinking of running for a third term. You've heard, haven't
I
you?
when I would say it's like, dude. Well, McKinley, and
Yeah.
they've already taken a pot shot at you twice. Oh, I don't know, it's once or twice.
No, he has said he'll do a third
I,
term. And
I'm,
this is
I'm, I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that.
it's like, do you know how he's thinking of doing it? He's getting one of his subordinates to run, okay? And he is the vice president to him because there's nothing
Oh,
about him
Medvedev
being
and
a vice
Putin.
president. And then he will the president will stand down. That means automatically, as a constitution, the vice president becomes president. So he gets to run a third term.
Yeah, yeah. This is the Medvedev Putin model.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember?
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, well,
So he's planning on doing it. So it's not like the only thing that might go against him is his age. But hey, but I mean, I'm sorry, but I believe that he feels that he's a king and he's a dictator and he will run the country how he sees fit until, like I said, enough domestic people will be hurt enough by the actions of Trump and his policies where they stand up and go, look, enough's enough. Because let's be honest, there's already been some protests in the US against his policies. And he's still in his 100 days. Normally it's a honeymoon period, isn't it?
Well,
Already
if you think
there's
back to his first,
protests.
if you think back to his first term, let's not forget that all of Hollywood and all that crowd, they were all marching saying, "Not my president, not
Yeah,
my
but that was
president, not my
Hollywood.
president."
This is
No,
now
I'm saying
people on the
Hollywood, not
street.
that crowd.
Yeah, 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 I know.
There were big, huge marches. It was, "Hey, he's not my president. He's not my." It was a big thing. I want because he was stopping immigrants. I remember, and they
Yeah,
were
I
saying,
know.
"Oh
But
yeah."
think about that logically. Yeah, yeah, that's a noble thing to do, but you're not affected directly.
Mm.
Now, because of his policies, people are affected in their pocket. Prices are going to go up. There will be prices to going up because, even though these strategies of onshore, where, you some products you still have to get offshore. So
No,
that
that's
you've
a
now
funny thing.
inflated the price. You, you
That's a
said
fun.
you said the supply chain. We haven't even
Mm-hmm.
touched on that.
That's a funny thing. Apparently, an American car, the parts from it come from all over the blooming world.
Yeah.
So it might be assembled in America, but
Yep.
it's not made in,
Made in
in
America. This is the
America.
this
It's
is the
made.
problem. The only thing you can guarantee effectively
Mm.
is a raw material, a food product, something that sits in its basic constituent form. So, steel, for instance, you can say where that's come from because it's in its basic form. Food, you can tell where it's from because it's in its basic form. Anything that's manufactured or made nowadays is not made in one place.
Mm.
Normally, you're sourcing pieces for it, this is supply chain from all over the world to get the best deal and then you assemble it as cheaply as you possibly can. So you rightly say, if in America they want to bring manufacturing back, is it manufacturing or is it just assembling foreign bits? And then how does the tariff work there? Because you're assembling it in America, but the tariffs were actually for the raw components were made all over the world. I mean,
Yeah, I
how does that
saw I
work?
saw I saw one video that really made me crack up. So some kind of gizmo. I don't remember. Well, I don't think I know what it was, even when I was watching the video. So I can't tell you what it is now. But it's a car part. It starts life in Mexico. It crosses the border and goes into America. America, some company that does something, sends it to Canada. It comes back into America on its way to Mexico. In Mexico, they add more parts and then they send it finally to the final thing to America. So it's crossed the border 3 times. And if
Wow,
each time you're hitting it with a 25%,
that's no longer viable.
if you're hitting a 25% tariff, 75 when you're done, okay, for a little gizmo. And this guy was sitting there, standing there looking at the camera going, "Hi, it's not going to
How are you
work."
going to do this? How is it going to
And
work?
then he said, this is, it wasn't a Tesla, it was a Ford something. And then he said,
Okay.
this is the car broken down. Look at all these parts. There's thousands of parts. I
Yeah,
didn't realize that many, to be honest.
there are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was very surprised there was that many. Thousands, and they're from all over the world.
yeah.
And
Because different countries, because of the supply chain issue, they specialize in
in
making a
just one.
particular bit.
I
Yeah,
think they said
exactly.
tires were from Thailand. No, not Thailand. Sorry, Cambodia, where there's a lot of rubber.
Rubber. Yeah.
The tires are from there. The rims are from so it's all.
A globally interconnected
But
supply
Trump wants
chain.
to kill the global economy.
He
That's
can't
what he
do
wants to
it.
do.
Honestly, there will be kickback, and it will it
EU
will happen. It
talk
will
about the EU.
happen.
Talk about the EU offering a 0 for 0 tariff. Then
Well,
they're saying it won't be.
they wanted a trade deal. That's all. That's what that was for. But for some components, they don't want to do a full tariff 0 for everything
Yeah, not yet.
because well, that's the way to go worldwide. Think about it. If you can negotiate a deal and say, look, we won't charge you, you won't charge us, free flowing products. That's what the EU was.
Hmm.
And that's what we've come out of in terms of Brexit. The EU was this zero tariff marketplace. So that's perfect. You can send bits across, they can come to you, works a treat because you have innovation. You can then use different strengths from different countries, different manufacturing. You have a market that's open.
Only if everyone is playing to the same rules, standards wise.
Well, that's what the EU did, and that's what the EU does.
Yeah, so
However,
with America, you can't.
no, you can't.
Because
Because
they got their
also,
crap. No, sorry,
yeah,
America. And nobody wants your blooming rubbishy
I
food
think
here
half the
that's
stuff it's the
killing them.
food. It's the food. Yes, they were moaning that Europe will not take
We
Americans'
can't
food.
even afford to eat because we got free healthcare. We can't all fall ill because we're eating American blooming food, which, by the way, they don't even want to label properly, so you
I
don't blooming know.
know, I
I mean,
know.
talk
See,
about dodgy characters, man.
this is part of the reason
Sorry,
why
Americans,
Europe doesn't want to do a food deal
but they
with the
might have
States.
to.
But
I'm just
no, they won't.
wondering.
They won't. They don't want. They certainly won't
They're
do that.
chickens, man. Come on.
The chickens
Yeah.
infect.
No, not the chickens. I
Injected
mean,
chickens.
the EU leaders will chicken out. That's what I'm trying. I mean, look at what
No,
they did. Look at what they did to their own economy. Look at what Germany did to its own economy
no,
with
they
the
won't. I don't think
pipeline
they'll
thing.
chicken out. I mean, we're getting to the top of the hour here. We haven't even touched the surface of this. I mean, so do you think that he is breaking America, and will he be the savior of it?
I don't know if he'll be the savior, but there's an off chance he will be. That could surprise everyone. Right now, everybody has written him off, and one of the very few people who is saying you should not write him off completely. It does look like he is going to. Logic tells you he will fail, but recently, when I found out that the far side of the moon is a thing, despite my being certain it wasn't, I now don't worry too much about logic. I used to be all, logic was my god. Now it's not. Now it's like, yeah, I don't know. So logically, you would think, well, the rest of the world could just stand up to America and say, no, we're not playing your game. But unfortunately, the rest of the world is peopled by a bunch of very weak people who can't see,
Uh,
further than their own immediate interests. And but when you're hungry, let's be honest. Here's what we say in Nigeria. A hungry man can't plan for next month's meal. He's got to eat today.
Indeed.
So you can't really
However,
blame people.
look at we've got a case in point even now of a country that was strangulated economy wise, Russia, as part of its incursion into Ukraine, and they were isolated by the world, but they've still survived
No, sorry,
without
Russia
America.
was never in danger. We have one of our early shows was on this, and I
Well,
said,
but that's what I'm trying to say. That's what
yeah,
I'm
but
trying to say.
not everybody's Russia
China,
though.
China is not going to be in danger. Europe is not going to be in danger. Certain countries within Africa will, but most of the developed world will not be in danger. The ones that will be vulnerable, but China will offer a helping hand and they will pivot to China. America will end up being isolated, and this is not going to bode well. And I believe, this is just my opinion, that corporate America, including the domestic audience, will get fed up of this. They will see that the writing's on the wall, and eventually they will prevent Trump and make him turn so he will look bad. And after he's turned, his position will become untenable. So watch this space.
I've got to say something. This is what I've got to. This is what I've got to say. China has played a very bad hand. They've played this game terribly. They didn't watch Russia. President Putin, I think he's a lousy war leader, but as a peacetime administrator, is without parallel. What he did was this, and I've learned so much from just watching him. What he did was this: at no point did Russia deliberately stop selling anything to anyone. If the West didn't buy stuff from Russia, it was because the West itself said we're not going to buy from you. But he was always willing to sell even to his worst enemy. When this kicked off in 2022, I was so mad. I'm speaking like an American. I was so annoyed with it. I was furious that he was still selling gas and oil and everything to the Germans. It's like, why are you crazy, man? These people hate you. Why are you sending these resources to him? And the fact of he never stopped. The Germans themselves cut themselves off, lunatics, but he never stopped. What he did was he stopped buying stuff from the West. So he was always willing to sell to you, he was always willing to make money off you, but he wasn't willing to he wasn't willing to help you in the sense of buying your stuff.
Yeah.
China could have done that to America. It's just you don't put tariffs on American goods coming into your country. You're tariffing your own people.
Yes,
Keep
that's
selling,
right.
keep selling to America, whatever it is, and then just stop buying their stuff.
Yes.
Buy stuff from other people. Buy stuff from Europe because
Yeah.
you've got to buy more stuff from Vietnam. You want Vietnam to not be interested in American secondary sanctions, then you've got to have a trade, at least equality, if not a deficit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're
Agreed.
not playing. They're not doing that. They're just
Well, they're showing face. If they didn't react in that way, they're looking to their domestic audience. They have to show strength, and strength means retaliating. So they're a bit of a caught by
that's weak
culture.
for me.
That's
That's that.
cultural.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's
culture
weakness.
anyway.
What Putin did was the right thing. Got to be strong at a time like that and say, nah, we're going to keep
We're
selling.
not going to do it. Indeed. Right. If you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexpected twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tyre, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.